Today we're doing a medium bald taper. This is a curly texture type hair, so it's anywhere between a 3A and a 3C. And if you don't know already, this type of texture on light skin is by far my favorite texture to cut. This is what makes the hair pop. It's just gonna look even more crispy when I use that razor technique that I will show you guys later on the video. So let's get into it. Remember, I'm doing the bald taper and my client likes a gradual blend. So I start off a little below the earlobes and take that line all the way across, making sure that I take an even stroke and using my mirror as a reference to make sure that line is as symmetrical as possible. Now I go in with my 5-star seniors and I have the blade completely open and I'm taking it up an inch. Now I go in with my 1 guard completely open and repeat the same steps, taking it up an inch and making sure that guideline is even all across the board. When first starting off, this haircut can seem intimidating, being that you don't have a lot of room to work with as if you were doing a mid fade or a high fade. Don't get discouraged that the space is a lot smaller. You just want to stay consistent with the guidelines and making sure they're an inch. Don't take them any shorter than that because your blends will not look complete. So just make sure that you take it up an inch and follow the steps. So now I go in with my 1 guard completely closed and I'm attacking that middle line. Brushing while I'm cutting the hair, being that his hair is curly. I don't want to make an over curl and end up fading a lot more than I needed to. So I'm just staying consistent with the brush and the clipper.
We in the booth.
Man, I really wish you guys can see how many times I turn around and look at my mirror just so I can point out the dark spots. My mirror is my third eye, man. That mirror does not lie, so I love to look at my mirror. Now I jump all the way to my 3 guard completely closed and I start fading from top to bottom after this, just removing bulk and prepping the area for my next guard. So now I go in with my 2 guard completely closed, and as you can see, I pointed at the line that I do want to attack. So I go right at that line and flick out, not passing it, but staying right below it. You want to make sure you don't take that 2 guard too high and end up having a non-gradual fade. It becomes too light, and being that I like to keep my fades a little dark, I stack that guard on top of the 3 and just flick out. After the 2 guard, I take my 1.5 guard completely open and I do small strokes using the corner of the clipper, only attacking that line and not going any higher. I'm not trying to create no guidelines. I'm not trying to take the fade any higher. All I'm doing is making sure that I soften up that line and it becomes easy to take out during my detail process. So I've built a foundation of steps that I take every single cut. And once I figured out my steps, I stuck to it. I suggest you guys find a way. It can be a mixture of different barbers you watch. It could be a mixture of you and what you've come up with over the years. But whatever that formula is, you stick to it. Don't try to get into mixing guards and skipping guards. Just do you, man. Figure out what you is and keep doing that. kind of see it as if you can have a plan A, you can have a plan B, all the way through Z. But if your mind is consumed with B through Z, you don't have time to focus on A. So just figure out what you want to do and stick to it. Now I go in with my 5-star senior, no guard, completely open, and I begin my favorite part, the detail work. And I just stay on it, stay right at that line, and flick out using only my corners, barely holding any weight to the clipper. Close it halfway, attack that line, and do the same thing, barely tapping at that line. Now I close my clipper all the way and just tap at that bottom line. So I go in with my half guard, close it halfway, and attack any spot that I feel needs to be cleaned up some more. Now going with my balding clipper, just removing the hair at the neck area, making sure I have the canvas completely clean. Now I go in and attack that lineup. Using my gold FXs, take the whole blade and tap at the first line. As I get closer to the ear, I like to use the corner of the blade, pretty much using 2 to 3 teeth, and just get that curve just right. Now you want to make sure that you pick up a comb, a brush, a toothbrush, it doesn't matter, whatever you have, comb that hair and make sure it's hanging over the lineup, so that way when you go back in with your trimmer and clean it up for the second pass, it is as sharp as it possibly can be. Now for the last step of my taper, I take my Babyliss foil shaver and attack any stubble that I see and get it as low as possible.
1, 2, 1, 2, we in the booth.
After completing the fade, I love to go in with my straight razor and define that hairline. This is what makes the hairline have that ashy effect or that white crisp line that you see on Instagram pictures. You can achieve all of that naturally just by adding the straight razor into your arsenal and pretty much perfecting the craft, man. Doing the right side of the taper can be a little tricky, so I've come to find out that flipping the razor over and backhanding it towards the hairline is the best and most efficient way to attack it. I noticed that he had some bulk that needed to be taken down. Just so I don't get intimidated, I go in with my 3 and take it down. My client was just explaining to me of a dream he had and he called it a nightmare because he woke up in hot sweats saying that somebody pushed his hairline back, and man, I just thought that was the funniest thing. There ain't nothing worse than the pushed back lineup. So now I go in with my gold FXs and create my first guideline. Next, I take my clipper and open it all the way, and I just take it up an inch, staying consistent on the strokes and making sure that whole guideline is completely even. Now this area of the taper can get tricky. Like I said earlier, you don't have much room to play with, so I advise you not to use the full blade, just so that way you don't take the fade and cut some part of it that you don't want to cut. So now I go in with my one guard completely open and make my second guideline an inch above that. Now I close my clipper to a complete number 1 and attack that middle line. Again, only using the corner of the blade. Now I would usually go number 3, but being that I did that in the beginning, I go straight to my number 2 completely closed and attack that bulk line. Once again, I'm fading from the top to the bottom. Now I take my 1.5 guard and open it all the way. Using the corner of the clipper, I'm just debulking it, not trying to create any guidelines, just softening up that line and making sure that blend is nice and gradual. Now that completes my rough draft. Now I'm able to go back and work on details. So I go in and close my blade halfway and only attacking the bottom line. Using the corner of my blade, I'm knocking out that last line. Now I close the clipper all the way and just softly hit that line with the corners of my blade. And this should be the last step to this side taper. Oh, I guess not. I got my half guard and I'm just taking out some dark spots that I see in the front of the lineup. Like I said, man, this is my favorite part. I love putting in the detail work. That's what's important to me, and that's what stands out from a regular fade and a fade that you can look at and be satisfied with. I want to treat every fade as if I were going to post it or it was going to be on a billboard, a magazine, and put in that same amount of effort on each client. So now I go in with my gold FXs and I create that first C cup. I tap the top of the C cup, then I make my way to the bottom of it and I connect both points, only using the corner. After I've done that, I take my shaver, balled out the bottom of the fade, and now it should be done. Now I'm gonna show you guys the other side, not step by step. I'll fast forward and you guys make sure that you stay consistent and use the same steps. I appreciate everybody that made it this far into the video. and for completing your first medium bald taper. Even if it wasn't your first taper, man, I hope you guys gained some type of knowledge off of this video. This was my first haircut to ever do when I became a barber, so I take passion when I do bald tapers. I just want to say thank you guys again. Make sure you guys subscribe, put a like, and don't forget, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, man. I'll see y'all on the next video. God bless.